What's up, everyone? This is Isaac from Hunger Smash Fitness. Just wanted to do a quick video about the Shaw Classic because that's starting right now. And so the Shaw Classic is going to be starting right now, and then he'll be posting the videos tomorrow from day one, which is today. He'll post that tomorrow, and then from day two, which is tomorrow, he'll post that Sunday. So those you can only watch if you've bought the subscription through the Shaw Strength Elite Club. I can post a link to that down below. So if you are interested in that, definitely look into it, because Brian has said that the prize money will be coming, all the subscriptions or whatever from this show will be going to the athletes. So if you want to be supporting your local strongman, well, this is global, so not local, but if you want to be supporting them, go and subscribe. I think it's $8.99 US. And if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe after 1 month. Not a big deal. He said that that's totally fine right now. So anyways, so first of all, for the athletes, so we have Jerry Pritchett, Adam Bishop, Brian, obviously, Luke Stoltman, Kevin Ferris, Terry Hollins, Alexei Novikov, Trey Mitchell, JF Caron, and Maxime Boudreau. Sadly, Zadrunas had to pull out something about his knee. I'm not completely sure what's going on with that. I was really disappointed about that because I was really excited to see Zadrunas coming back for this. I've always loved watching him. He's probably one of my favorites just because of his personality and everything that he goes about. But sadly, he will not be there this time. And Robert Oberst, I guess, pulled out as well. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that, so he will not be there. Which, you know, Obi's always fun to watch too. He's just a character. He wasn't one of my original picks to win, but he's always entertaining just because he's a goofball. So anyway, so those are the athletes. Like I said, Zadrunas and Obi are out. So for the event, day one is going to be max log, 500 kilogram yoke, and a farmer's medley into a frame carry. So with the max log, I think that Luke is probably going to win this. Luke has been looking phenomenal with the log lately. The top three that I have for it, I think, are Luke, Jerry Pritchett, and Brian. We'll see, we'll see how it goes. Obviously, it's Brian's log, so he's been able to practice with it a little bit and everything beforehand, so he has that slight advantage. But should be fun, should be interesting. Yeah. With the 500 kilogram yoke walk, I'm not sure of the exact distance that they're gonna go, but I know with yoke, Terry Hollins has always been really solid. He played rugby, I think it was, for a while. So he's always been really good at the moving events. Jerry Pritchett is usually pretty solid with them. Brian's pretty good. Alexei possibly. I'm not sure how Alexei will do with a 500 kilogram. That's getting a little bit on the heavy side. But yeah, I feel like probably those four will be doing the best. Terry Hollins, Jerry Pritchett, Brian Shaw, and Alexei. Yeah, and then for the third event for day one, it'll be the farmer's medley into frame carry. I think with this, I think Alexei will do really well. Terry Hollins is usually pretty good at these. Maxime Boudreau, maybe, and Kevin Ferris, maybe. It'll be interesting because it's going to be, I think it's 2 farmers medleys and then the frame. So it's a lighter farmers into a heavier farmers into a heavier frame. So a little bit interesting. Obviously, Brian's always, fairly decent at these, but I feel like Alexei, I'm gonna say that Alexei's probably gonna win it. Possibly Terry. Terry's usually pretty decent at these as well. And then yeah, like I said, Kevin Ferris and Maxime Boudreau. I'm not sure how to say his last name. I think it's just Boudreau, but yeah, so that should be a lot of fun to watch. And then day two is up at the mountain gym, and so that's when they're going up to, well, the first day is already at altitude. They're already at a pretty decent altitude. So I'm sure some of the guys will probably struggle with day one, just because I know my wife's family lives up in Colorado as well. And so it's interesting because whenever you go up there, you can always feel the difference right away. It's just a little bit harder to breathe, a little bit harder. Everything's just a little bit harder. And so when you're doing these maximum effort events, it's going to drain you that much faster because you don't have the oxygen to supply. And so it's going to take you longer to recover as well. And I think Brian did say that he's going to provide oxygen for the athletes if they need it and all that sort of stuff. So that'll be good. But it'll be interesting to watch and see who's affected by the altitude the most. And then day 2 is up at the mountain gym, and so that's at an even higher altitude. And so I think people are really gonna, if they're going to struggle, it's gonna be up at the mountain gym, which I'm a little disappointed about because personally the event that I'm looking forward to the most, which is the Hummer Tire Max Deadlift, that's gonna be the first event of the day. So at least they're not gonna be exhausted. It's the first event of the day. Hopefully they'll be well rested, refreshed and everything else. But it is a max deadlift. Doing a max deadlift really fatigues you. And if you don't have the oxygen to recover, you only have a set amount of time before your next attempt, your next rep. So it'll be really interesting to see who does well with that and who doesn't. Obviously, Brian has done this a number of times before at the Arnold Classic, before Arnold switched out for the elephant bar deadlift. It's the Hummer Tire deadlift. I think it's I'd have to look up the exact dimensions and everything. I think it's a 15-inch height. But I know it's different because there's more flex, it's longer, but at the same time, so it's a higher deadlift than a regular, but it's not an 18-inch deadlift. But also with the tires and everything, because of the way that they go out, when you're lifting up, the first tire will come off first and then the second and third. And so it kind of creates this weird mechanism where if you're not careful, it can catch on the floor, I guess. I've never done it. I would love to, but I've never done a Hummer Tire deadlift. But yeah, so it creates this weird mechanism where the rubber can kind of stick and drag just a little bit. So it just feels different. It feels really weird, especially for those who have not done it before. But I think Brian is probably going to be really good at it. He's done it in competition before. His deadlift has always been, fairly decent, not phenomenal, but especially compared to a lot of the other athletes here, I think he's going to be a contender to winning the Hummer Tire deadlift. Jerry Pritchett, I think, will do really well. Obviously, JF Carone is always a beast at deadlift. I feel like JF could potentially win it if the altitude is not affecting him too much, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. And then Adam Bishop as well. Adam Bishop has a really decent deadlift in training with the lockout. So with the rack pulls and stuff like that, he's got a pretty decent deadlift with that. So it'll be interesting because I don't think I've ever seen him do it in competition before. But it'll be really interesting to see how he does with that. And then Alexei Novikov as well. I wouldn't necessarily put him in as a contender to win, but he did better than I expected at the World's Strongest Man. So it'll be really interesting to see how he does with the Hummer Tire deadlift. Like I said, it's a very different monster than a regular deadlift or an elephant bar deadlift or an 18-inch or whatever. They're all different. So it'll be interesting to see how he does with that. Second event of day number 2 is the circus dumbbell for reps. I think Jerry and Brian will both do really well with this. Again, it kind of depends on how well everyone's recovered from the Hummer Tire deadlift. Deadlifting takes everything out of you. It takes, it's a full body movement. And circus dumbbell, we'll have to see how they do, how everyone's handling the altitude and everything. I think Brian's going to do well. Jerry's going to do well. Luke potentially, but I haven't seen him do much with the circus dumbbell, so it'll be really interesting doing it for reps and doing it at altitude. But yeah, so there's that. And then the 6 to 8 stone run at the end. And that, Brian could potentially win it. Luke does really well with stone runs too. He's won, I think, Britain's Strongest Man before with a stone run. So Luke's a really good stone runner. He gets overlooked because of Tom a lot of the time, and Tom is a phenomenal. Tom is otherworldly in the stone runs, but Luke's really good, and so it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, it's at the end of the day. They're at altitude. It's the 6th event out of 6, so it's the very last event. So a lot of it will depend as well on where everyone's standing, you know, who's hurt, who's everything else. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of who's left at that time, yeah, and kind of go from there. Yeah, so I think for my predictions, personally, I think I'm going to pick Brian to win it just because he has hometown advantage. It's his gym, it's his equipment, it's at altitude. He's really the only one who trains at altitude, so he's the only one who is familiar with it and familiar with how it affects the body. So I think I'm going to say Brian will win it. Alexi, I think, will probably take second. And I think it's interesting because Alexi just won World's Strongest Man, and so he knows he can do it. He knows he's there. It kind of depends on how well he's recovered from World's Strongest Man and how much the altitude affects him as well. So I think Alexi could potentially win it. I think he's probably going to finish on the podium if he doesn't get hurt or anything like that. But I think Brian's probably going to win it, and then Alexi will probably take second, and I think I'm going to call Luke for taking third. Luke is really developing into a phenomenal strongman, and a lot of these events are decent for Luke. I think Jerry's also up there, Jerry Pritchett, so it could potentially be Jerry, but we'll have to see. It really depends on a lot of the individual standings, and I think especially with that Hummer tire deadlift, kind of how people finish with that, I think it may set how everyone does a lot more for the rest. It's just, like I said, it's a foreign beast. A lot of them are not familiar with it. So anyways, that's my predictions. I will respect Brian, and I'm not going to do anything about the event until he does, at least until he puts it out to the public, just because he's doing this for the athletes. He's doing it to support the athletes. I will be watching it. I went ahead and bought the subscription, and I'm stoked. I'm excited to watch it. He's been putting up little videos and stuff. So if you want to watch it, like I said, buy a subscription. Otherwise, I will not be doing a video about the Shaw Classic until after he has released it to the public, basically. But anyways, that's about it for today. Yeah, if you have any questions or comments, definitely comment down below. I'd love to discuss everything with you. I'd love to chat about whatever with you. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your predictions. Yeah, feel free to comment down below and say who you think will win, who you think will get hurt, who you think will pull out, all that sort of stuff. So maybe put a wager on the bottom about who's gonna be affected by the altitude the most as well, because training at altitude is rough. I've done it a couple times where we've gone to when we visit my wife's family in Colorado, and we'll go to the gym and everything, and it's different. It's very, very different than training down at sea level or anything else. So yeah, maybe comment down below what your predictions are, and if you have any experiences with altitude. So anyways, that's all for today. Once again, this is Isaac from Hunger Smash Fitness. Please like and subscribe the video and share the video with whoever you think would be interested. So anyways, that's all for today.